Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we're going to be checking out a track by an act named Avalanche The Architect titled Em Mosh Pit. And if we switch over to here we have ourselves a track on the screen on YouTube and we're going to listen through this from start till finish. And we're going to hear what we think. Let's go! Let's go. Really fierce synth line to start things off, eh?
Make a mosh pit, make a mosh pit. We tear the bitch up, nigga, you can't stop shit. Make a mosh pit, make a mosh pit. We tear the bitch up, nigga, you can't stop shit.
Is this AI art, like in the video? Because if it is, that's cool, don't get me wrong, I'm just asking out of curiosity.
Get your pop hit, when we pop clips, and the feed on them, you can get drop kicked. Get your pop hit, when we pop clips, and the feed on them, you can get drop kicked. They got me head banging, I see your leg hanging. This ain't mosh pit, this is gang banging. Step on my shoe, I'ma start swinging. I'm in the wrong party wearing crushed linen, but I like it here. I'ma fight in here. Shadow boxing, left and right in here. Supposed to be fun, I brought a knife in here. Push me again, you lose your life in here.
I mean, like, it's fierce. The vocal style with the fry there, with the rapping, the lines there, consistent flow of it, the animosity works really well with what we've got going on with the backing with those really fierce kit sounds with the percussion samples, that 808, and just the really fizzy synth parts. It's really actually quite fantastic.
Make a mosh pit, make a mosh pit. We tear the bitch up, nigga, you can't stop shit. Make a mosh pit, make a mosh pit. We tear the bitch up, nigga, you can't stop shit. Get your pop hit, when we pop clips, and the feed on them, you can get drop kicked. Get your pop hit, when we pop clips, and the feed on them, you can get drop kicked. Dancing in a vigorous and violent manner, ripping off my shirt, turning green like Bruce Banner. It looks like the definition of true anger. Head banging mosh pit, slam dancer. Throw your arms around, start swinging it. When it looks like a fight, you got the hang of it. Girls pulling hair, every strand of it. One bitch got a full head of it. Don't jump in the ring if you can't handle it. If you do, say your prayers, get a candle it. Don't jump in the ring if you can't handle it. If you do, say your prayers, get a candle it.
Damn, that is ferocious. This is probably my favorite track from Avalanche. I've reviewed a few of his tracks before, but this one's got some real pull to it. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Avalanche The Architect, titled Em Mosh Pit. Now, what do I think this track is about? What I gather is that basically we're talking about the mosh pit, a place where people fight and rip the shit out of each other. People pull in here, you know, knives involved, you know. You might lose your life if you get involved. Be careful before you step into the ring. I don't think it necessarily just means a mosh pit. It could be getting into like an altercation with Avalanche The Architect themselves and you don't want to sort of front to them, etc. And I think that makes sense. You know, it's cool. It's a great story that's being told here. Not like for kids, obviously, but like, you know, at the same time, music doesn't need to be made for kids. I think that a lot of people relate to the intensity of being in a mosh pit and also just what a lot of other stuff that's being said here. So I think that's good. The way that Avalanche raps, it's identifiable, it's unique. I haven't really heard a lot of people with sort of like a tone of voice like his, and you hear him clearly and you think, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm going to remember that voice next time I hear it. And that's really important because what you've got here is a genre where there are just so many people. And the issue with that being that much competition is that you can just like get lost in it. And so having a unique voice that you can easily recognize as a listener, as a fan, is fantastic. But it's also just the fact that we were really selling it. We were really killing it. We emoted really effectively and genuinely and passionately in it. We were totally 100% committed to the performance, to the act. We not only rapped really well with good technique and solid bars and a great sense of rhythm and flow, but we also acted like we were talking. It was very believable, and I think that's also really important, especially with what we're talking about, going on in the story. If you kind of half-ass that performance and don't really give the full oomph to it that it requires, people just aren't going to believe it. So good job on that front. At 2 minutes, the track is nice and short, so there's very little filler. You have a few choruses, a few hooks, and we have the synth intro as well with that buzz and that tension and angst to it. The kicks and snares come in later on, nice and tight in the mix and placed well, and I think that there's a great phrasing to the rhythm and groove of the percussion, and the bass is nice and full without being too overpowering, and it's nice and clean. I think there's also some sort of synth filtering as well with a wow 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 with a nice portamento and interesting envelope on that instrument. And we had a nice upper octave synth da 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 with like a really simple motif as well to kind of develop the song as we went along. We were aware that we couldn't just have the same sound from the back in the entire time, even though it was a shorter form factor track. We knew to kind of give the listener more, and we delivered. It was a really simple motif with bum, bum, bum. It was like a 3-note bass line, and we repeated it with variations of the other instruments, a consistent 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4. It could be 16th note groove. It was definitely a 16th note groove with 8th note accents, if I'm not mistaken. And the flow from Avalanche went really well with what the percussion was doing, sat nicely with the bass, and there was a great presence with the tone of the vocals and the style of way we were communicating with just how dramatic it all sounded. It sounded like a massive event, like you were in a serious amount of danger and you really needed to be careful again before you stepped into the ring. That's how the motif sounded. It wasn't too kind of cripplingly like sad sounding or like negative sounding. It was more menacing, and especially in the hooks when there was just this bit more oomph with all the elements coming together with those vocal dubs and stuff. It's just tight, nice and simple, easy to digest, short and respectful of listeners' time, and the motif mirrors the intensity of what's being described in the lyrics with the use of its really kind of authoritative chord progressions, the power chords there, the simple flow that you just had to respect. It was dope. Finally, the studio recording, mixing and mastering was sensational. I think that, Avalanche's vocals sounded nice and present in the mix. Any instruments we had, like the synths or the bass or the drums, were nice and present in the mix as well, nicely filtered and EQ'd. And we had things nice and wide in the stereo field, so you could perceive everything nice and clearly. Things were nicely balanced in the frequency spectrum. There were no resonant frequencies, and you could hear the drums and the bass nicely sidechained. Any synth parts floated around nicely in the mid to higher ranges there and were great to listen to it. Everything sounded commercial grade. There wasn't a huge amount of dynamic range, but I don't think this track necessarily needed it. It was mastered to be loud, but at the same time, it was nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression limiting was handled. I don't think having massive pauses or breaks this thing would necessarily better it. I think that the vocal focus throughout the whole of it was great because Avalanche's vocals, I like the way he performs and within the genre and within his works, but again, it was also nice to just have the backing by itself occasionally to appreciate the rest of the instruments involved. But that was a positive review. That was my review of Avalanche The Architect's Em Mosh Pit, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love by their various social medias and a YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands Out.